My youngest sister, Raindrop, has accused me of SAing her when she was younger.
For years, the world knew them as the Wolf Pack, a family that had supposedly turned its back on modern life for the rugged freedom of the Alaskan wilderness. They were a symbol of resilience and a simpler way of life, broadcast into millions. Of homes as the stars of Discovery Channel's hit series, Alaskan Bush People. For 14 seasons, viewers watched Billy and Amy Brown, along with their 7 kids, build a world of their own, seemingly shielded from the outside world. They were, for all intents and purposes, a reality TV dynasty built on one thing: family, above all else. But behind the facade of their off-grid Browntown, a different reality was taking shape. One filled with secrets, resentments, and betrayals that would eventually tear through the heart of the family. And a central figure in that unraveling is Noah Brown, the family's quiet inventor, the resident genius, the one who always seemed to have a plan. But as it turns out, no invention could protect his family from the implosion that was to come. Through devastating loss, bitter feuds, and shocking online accusations, the wholesome family image from Alaskan Bush People has been shattered. The story they sold to the world has been replaced by a much darker, more complicated truth. Today, we're breaking down what Noah Brown didn't want you to know: the explosive family feuds, the questions of authenticity, and the disturbing allegations that have rocked their reality TV dynasty. This isn't the story of conquering the wilderness anymore. It's the story of a family struggling to survive its own bloodline. After losing his father and watching a wildfire consume their home, Noah Brown's life was no longer about conquering the wild. It was about surviving the fallout. The once unbreakable wolf pack found itself scattered, with broken bonds and bitter accusations plaguing their legacy. The dream that patriarch Billy Brown had so carefully built was crumbling. In its place, a bitter war of words erupted, with Noah positioned directly on the front lines, fighting a battle not against the elements, but against his own sister. This is the story of how the wilderness dream became a real-life nightmare. To really get the magnitude of the Brown family's downfall, you have to remember the myth they built. For over a decade, Alaskan Bush People gave us a story of near-total isolation. Billy Brown, the charismatic patriarch, preached a gospel of family unity, portraying his 7 children, Matt, Bam Bam, Bear, Gabe, Noah, Snowbird, and Rain, as a single unit. They were supposedly born and raised in the wild, so far from civilization that they had their own dialect. Their world, as we saw it, was all about hard work, ingenuity, and a bond forged on the Alaskan frontier. Noah Brown was a huge part of this myth. He was the family's inventor, often shown tinkering with junk to create everything from a bush washing machine to a homemade windmill. His quiet, brainy personality was the perfect contrast to his louder brothers, and he was framed as essential to the family's survival. His on-screen romance and marriage to Rain Alicia seemed like a fairy tale, a new member welcomed into the pack. The wedding was a celebrated TV event, a symbol of the wolf pack getting stronger. But 2 major events started to unravel this story. The first was the devastating wildfire in August 2020 that tore through their North Star Ranch in Washington, where the family had moved to be closer to medical facilities for Amy Brown's cancer treatment. The fire destroyed their homes and belongings. Watching their work turn to ash was a huge trauma that, on the surface, seemed to bring them closer. But underneath, losing their sanctuary just made existing tensions worse. The second and most final blow came on February 7, 2021, with the sudden death of Billy Brown. The patriarch, the dreamer, the leader of the wolf pack, was gone. At 68, he died from a seizure, leaving a power vacuum that no one was ready to fill. Billy wasn't just the main character, he was the soul of the show. Without him, the cracks in the family foundation started to look like canyons. The show itself seemed lost. airing its final season in 2022 before quietly vanishing without any official goodbye. In the wake of these tragedies, the myth of the unbreakable wolf pack began to fall apart in public. The grief was real, but so were the resentments that had been simmering for years under Billy's rule. Leadership struggles reportedly emerged, and personal conflicts festered. For Noah Brown, the time after his father's death wouldn't be for quiet mourning. It was the start of a public and painful war with his own flesh and blood, a war that would expose the dark side of their reality TV fame. Long before the family feuds went public, the Brown family's image was already tarnished by a legal scandal that hit the core of their brand, their claim to be true Alaskans. This wasn't a small mistake. It was a case of fraud that suggested their on-screen life was, at least partly, an illusion. In October 2014, as the show was getting popular, a grand jury in Juneau, Alaska, indicted 6 members of the family on 60 counts of first-degree unsworn falsification. The charges were tied to their applications for the Permanent Fund Dividend, or PFD, an annual payment from the state's oil wealth given to permanent Alaska residents. The state alleged that from 2009 to 2012, Billy, Amy, and 4 of their sons, Bam Bam, Bear, Gabe, and Noah, had illegally collected thousands of dollars by falsely claiming to be full-time Alaskans when they were actually living in the lower 48. The investigation showed the Browns had spent more than 180 days a year outside of Alaska, which violated the PFD's rules. This flew in the face of the story being sold to millions of viewers, that they were a family living year-round in the remote wilderness. The legal documents painted a picture of a family that had deliberately misled the government for money. The backlash in Alaska was intense. Many locals felt the Browns were making a mockery of their way of life and called them fakes. The scandal fueled accusations that had been brewing for a while, that Browntown was just a set, and that the family stayed in comfortable hotels when the cameras were off. At first, the family pleaded not guilty, but as the evidence piled up, they struck a plea deal in 2015. Billy and his son Joshua Bam Bam pleaded guilty to 1 count of unsworn falsification to protect the others. They were sentenced to 30 days in jail, which was later changed to community service, and they had to pay back the money. They were also banned from ever applying for the PFD again. For Noah, who was named in the original indictment, the case was a harsh look at the dark side of fame. Though he wasn't convicted, his name was tied to the scandal. The fraud case was the first real crack in the family's image. It proved that the line between their real life and their TV life was blurry. It made people wonder, if they lied about this, what else were they lying about? In the years after the PFD scandal and Billy's death, the image of the wolf pack kept crumbling, this time from the inside out. The bond between siblings frayed into open hostility, playing out on social media for the world to see. At the center of it was Noah Brown, whose personal life became a spectacle of bitter estrangement. The first major sign of trouble came in early 2025, when Noah and his wife, Rain, announced they were separating after 6 years of marriage. In a candid video, Noah revealed that he had moved into a guest cabin on their property at Rain's request. He talked about co-parenting their 2 sons, but for a couple whose love story was a key plotline on the show, the split was a shock to fans. It was another pillar of the family myth crashing down, but the collapse of his marriage was happening alongside a much uglier conflict, a feud with his youngest sister, Rain Brown. The tension boiled over into a messy public battle. In late 2024, reports surfaced, originating from the tabloid The Sun, that Noah had allegedly filed for a protective order against Rain, accusing her of harassment and making threats. Though the order was reportedly denied due to a lack of evidence and paperwork errors, the accusations themselves exposed a shocking level of bitterness. Rain responded indirectly on social media, posting about her struggles with mental health, and suggesting her brother was attacking her when she was vulnerable. She also expressed her long-standing anger over the fact that Noah's wife, Rain, had changed her name from her birth name, Ruth, a point of contention that had apparently festered for years. The feud revealed a family deeply divided. The once close siblings were now publicly at odds, with social media as their battlefield. Noah's relationship with Rain had deteriorated to the point of rumored legal action, and his own marriage was falling apart at the same time. The quiet inventor was now seemingly isolated, his personal life in shambles and his family ties severed. The wolf pack wasn't just scattered, its members were at war. Just when it seemed the Brown family saga couldn't get any more chaotic, the online war between Noah and Rain escalated into a truly dark territory. The feud morphed into the most serious and damaging allegations possible, playing out in a series of raw and emotional social media posts that left the family's reputation in tatters. The firestorm exploded in the summer of 2025 when the online battle spiraled into unverified public accusations of the gravest nature. On platforms like TikTok, Rain began to allude to past abuse by her brother, Noah. In response to comments, she eventually made the explosive and unsubstantiated claim that the abuse had been sexual. She insisted she wasn't lying and claimed her motivation for speaking out was a response to Noah's own public attacks on her character. The allegations made on a social media app and not in a court of law sent shockwaves through the fan community. Noah responded swiftly and decisively in his own video. He categorically denied the claims, stating, "This allegation is completely false. I didn't do anything." He suggested he believed his sister's motives were malicious, saying, "It looks like it's just to destroy my life and get my kids taken away." The situation was further complicated by a web of counter-accusations. Noah had previously made his own disturbing claims to authorities, alleging that his mother, Amy, was being neglected and given drugs by Rain, claims Rain vehemently denied, calling them lies. The public was left to watch a horrifying he-said-she-said battle play out between siblings online. There was no middle ground, only two completely opposing stories. On one side, a sister alluding to being a victim of past abuse. On the other, a brother and father desperately fighting to clear his name, claiming he was the target of a vicious campaign. The truth of the claims remains unverified, known only to those inside the family. But regardless, the damage is catastrophic. The allegations have moved beyond reality TV drama and into the realm of real-world tragedy, leaving a legacy defined not by wilderness survival, but by the scars of a war that has no winners. Beyond the personal dramas, there's always been one question that has haunted Alaskan bush people. How much of it was real? The family's recent implosion has only made those doubts louder, forcing fans to re-examine the whole series. From the start, many Alaskans were critics. They accused the Browns of faking their lifestyle for TV. Reports surfaced that during early seasons, the family stayed at a comfortable lodge, not in the one-room cabin they supposedly built. This created resentment among real Alaskans who felt their culture was being exploited. Many of the show's dramatic events and even Noah's inventions have been questioned. Some have alleged that his creations were helped along by the production team to make good TV. High-stakes scenes, from bear encounters to medical crises, have been criticized as staged or exaggerated. Perhaps the most damning testimony came from an insider, Raven Adams, Bear Brown's estranged wife. She stated that the show was not entirely unscripted, confirming what many had suspected. Even Matt Brown, the eldest son, made bombshell claims after leaving the show, accusing his family and producers of enabling his substance abuse because it made for good television. The family's move to a big ranch in Washington, though necessary, for Ami's health was another thing fans struggled with. They were no longer the isolated wolf pack of Alaska. They had modern amenities and were living in the very civilization they claimed to have left behind. Noah himself has said on social media that the plan was never to live in Alaska full-time, but to split their time between Washington and Alaska, a far cry from the show's original premise. This history of questionable authenticity casts the family's current problems in a new light. Did they live in a world where the lines between reality and performance were so blurred they couldn't tell the difference anymore? The public feuds, fought on platforms like TikTok, feel like a continuation of their reality show. The Browns sold a dream to the world, but the evidence suggests that dream was, in many ways, a carefully scripted fiction. The tragedy is that their real-life problems have become far more destructive than anything a producer could have ever imagined. The saga of the Brown family is a complex and heartbreaking story with many unanswered questions. What do you believe is the truth behind the feuds and the questions of authenticity? Has the line between reality and television become permanently blurred for this family? We want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date on the most shocking stories from the world of reality TV, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update as we continue to unpack the stories that television doesn't always tell you. The story of the Brown family, once a tale of family devotion, has curdled into a modern tragedy. They were the wolf pack, a symbol of unity. Today, they are a family fractured, their bonds broken not by nature, but by the pressures of fame, money, and their own internal conflicts. The North Star Ranch, meant to be a new beginning, has instead become the backdrop for their unraveling. Noah Brown, the quiet inventor, is now at the center of this implosion. His journey from a key part of the family's survival myth to a central figure in its public disintegration is a cautionary tale. His personal life is in turmoil, with a separation from his wife and an irreparable rift with his sister that has spiraled into the ugliest of public accusations. The legal troubles, from the early fraud case to the messy online feuds, have stripped away any remaining wholesome image. What's left is a legacy in tatters. Alaskan bush people is off the air, overshadowed by a real-life drama far more destructive than any scripted storyline. The family is scattered, their communication now consisting of scathing social media posts. The question is no longer if they can survive the wilderness, but if they can survive each other. For Noah Brown and the rest of the clan, the wilderness they face now is one of their own making, a landscape of betrayal and accusation. The dream of Browntown is over, and the shocking reality of what's left is a story Noah Brown surely never wanted the world to know.